I'll just start combing her hair then. Right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to High Impact Foil Placement with Josh Congreve. Hello, Josh.
Hello, everyone. How are we today?
All right, we're going to begin now. Please, if you have any questions or comments, please pop them in the chat box and we'll do our best to answer them along the way. But let's hand it over to Josh.
Alrighty. So this is my beautiful model, Louise. And she's got quite fine hair, but it's quite darkish as well. So today, to prepare the hair, I've actually used the Joico Blonde Life Cream Lightener. And then I've also mixed it up with 20 Vol. And we've done that on a 1 to 1.5 ratio, just because it needs to be a little bit thicker to stay creamy through the lightening process. Of course, as always, we've been using the Defy Damage one just to help keep it nice and protected and strong through the whole process. After that, we've gone through and pre-toned the hair with a good 10V in the demi-liquid gloss. So it just gives us that really clean base to work from. It's always one of those things when sometimes you look at it, it looks a little bit like it needs more toning, but you'll find when you actually blow dry this up, it actually sits on a lighter, cleaner base. So whenever you're looking about pre-toning, or when you're toning, don't look at it when the hair's clumped together. Always go through and separate out the hair, and then you can actually see how clean it actually is, especially when you put it on against a black glove. So when this dries up, it's actually beautiful and clean. I don't like the idea of over-toning if you don't need to do more toning. Okay, so to save time, because sometimes with Christmas coming up, it gets so busy in the salon day to day that we need quick, easy solutions that you can actually really change up a haircut look just by some quick foil placement. So again, instead of drying the hair, I've actually gone through and mixed up my Joico Intensity shades with my Pro Series number 2. So the second step of the Defy Damage series. This way, I've made the tones a little bit stronger, and I've mixed it in with the Defy Damage number 2 because it just helps cut out part of the process of having to wait for excess time. Cool.
Awesome idea.
Yes, thank you. So my biggest tip for that is when you're making sure you do it, always make sure your tone's stronger, because obviously when you're putting it on wet hair and diluting it down with number 2, it always weakens and dilutes it. So you've always got to make it that little bit punchier and stronger. But it's just about quick, smart thinking. So with this haircut shape, it's a really funky haircut that Louise has got. And I'm always about actually emphasizing a haircut so we can actually get the most out of it. So I've got a head sheet sitting up there as well, where it's a very quick, easy technique about how to do the top box of a panel, especially if it's a model, a client that mainly wears their fringe forward or if they wear it side to side. So with this, I know I want to go through some areas around through here later on, but what I want to show you is my top box section, because that's my probably biggest go-to that I do with quick toning techniques, but also when I'm actually doing foil clients in the salon, so like a nice highlighter foil and then a root application, it's quick, easy placement. So with it here, we're actually going to go through and just separate the hair down the middle. Now, this obviously would change depending on the client's parting where it wants to sit. And my easiest advice when you're actually going through this technique can actually change depending on how the haircut sits and how the client wears it. So the easiest way I can say when you're doing it, only color the hair that needs to be colored. You don't need to be going through and doing 1,000,001 foils. Goodness knows we don't have the time. So something like this, when you're doing it, should only take you like 5-minute application when you're doing it quickly. So I know I've done this with my clients at the basin, where I'll quickly get one of the apprentices to go through and prep it up for me. And then all I do is come in and then I quickly put in the foils how I want, and then I get them to do the rest of the toning. But it's quick, easy placement. So first step is seeing where the hair needs to be sat. I know my first panel needs to be coming through and shattering underneath here because I want it coming down under the face. So I'm going to take a slightly curved section and connect it around to the side there. And always double checking if that's the hair that I want to see falling over. I'm like, great, I like that where it's sitting. Okay, so what I want to do here is I'm going to actually place a darker foil coming in first. So I always go in with my darker shade. So when the lighter shades sit over the top, it really contrasts nicely. With that as well, I always leave a slightly lighter, I leave that nice lighter blonde underneath. That's actually going to help contrast it again back. So yes, this is on just towel dried. wet hair as well. So now that I've got my curved angle shape in there, I've got it sitting around the bias of the head. So when it actually curves, it actually flows around the natural head shape. That's going to give us the most impact. So I'm going in first with my first color, and that is pink in color intensity. And I've obviously diluted that down with my number 2. If I wanted this to say be a really strong pink, like a real pink, I would actually go through then and maybe add a tiny bit of the red in there, like a dot of that. Just so if you want that strength of dimension of the original pink, that'll actually really flash it up nicely. So you still get that intensity. Now, one of my things when people actually go through and just downplay it, you've got to be careful that you're actually getting all the hair underneath. So what I like to do on this foil is push it side to side, and that's going to get all the color in nicely. Now, my big thing is when you get to the top panels here, you don't want to over push it onto the root because that's going to cause bleeding into the rest of the blonde. You just want to lightly feather it in, so that'll help prevent bleeding. And then we're just going to fold it up. Is this making a lot of sense to people coming through? And please feel free to ask any questions if anyone's got any as well.
So far, so good.
Awesome. So my next section, I kind of know I want to be shattering around about there. So I kind of look where the hair's falling. I'm like, cool, that's where my next section's falling because I want that contrast there. Again, taking a soft curved angle here, not just where it's sitting on the face, but where the hair actually falls through the rest of the hair coming down here.
So we just have a question, Josh.
Yeah.
Do we apply any colour to the scalp, or are we going to keep it all off the scalp?
We're actually keeping it all off the scalp. So with Louise, she actually wanted to go through and have her hair mostly blonde today with just a few peaks of highlights because she didn't want it too crazy, but we like the idea of a cool punker rock vibe. And we have done options before. If I was going to go through and do something on the scalp, I would say do the scalp application and then come through afterwards and then apply my extra colors. And you'll actually see that with my pre-done model I've done today, Renee, who will be showing you afterwards.
Going in with the limelight.
Yes. So with this one here, I'm going in, I've got it on like a lightness scale, so to speak. So obviously the pink is my darkest shade, and then the limelight is in that middle level, and then my yellow is going to be left later on top. Now this is where it's going to be fun. We're actually going to mix it up because on the opposite side, we're actually going to reverse the colors. So when the hair sits and molds differently, that's actually going to sit really cool.
And that also would work if you're changing your parting around as you do with shorter
100%.
hairstyles. Hey, Josh?
Yeah, because the biggest thing I find when you're doing this as well, you never want to be sticking to the same. People get bored with it. They get bored with seeing the same thing day in, day out. So if you're giving a client versatility in a hairstyle, that's the best part about it because you're giving them options for different looks that they can wear every day.
Absolutely. We have another question. So let's just confirm our colour combos for today. So we pre-lightened, didn't we?
Yes. So
Yep.
we've pre-lightened here first with the Blonde Life Cream Lightener and 6%,
Yep.
obviously using Defy Damage.
Yep.
And then we've pre-toned the hair with 10V in the liquid demis.
Yep, in the Lumishine range.
Yeah.
And then our 3 colours of choice are
We've got pink, limelight, and yellow.
all in the colour intensity range.
Yes. All right. So this is for our top 3 panels. What I want to do, I'm going to quickly zoom through the rest of this other side, just so you can actually see how fast I would actually go doing it on a client in the salon. So I'm just going to swing you around this way, Louise.
Now, our next question was, would you ever vary the depth of your slices?
Oh, absolutely. So this is completely depending on what the actual haircut is sitting. If it requires that it needs more strength in an area of a haircut, because say something might be too textured, I would do a stronger panel coming through. If I was going through and I needed to soften a strong line, I would actually go through and maybe slightly arc my shape a little bit more. So that way you're actually going to slightly diffuse your strong line coming through, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome answer.
Awesome. What I'll do later is later on in the group, we'll be sharing the after photos and I'll show you Louise's hair before. So one of the steps in this process that I forgot to mention before, and I had the wonderful Paul actually helping me before with applying my second round, is Louise actually had some bright colour in her hair from a previous colour, and we actually needed to cleanse it out. So we used the colour eraser just with the 1.5 volt, and that went through and just helped remove and break up the excess colour.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Getting lots of love.
Awesome. So this is where I want to go through and trick it up a little bit more and make it that bit more interesting, because I never like to keep it simple for Louise. We're going to do that same kind of sectioning pattern, except we're actually going to multi-layer the panels in between. So first one, I'm doing the pink. And then next one, going over the top with the green. And what you'll find here you can do is by using, say, 2 colours, you can actually go through and make 3 colours going into 3 colours. So then I would slightly blur that out that little bit more, and you're going to get a bit more of a muted shade on that in-between area. So if you can actually create a lot more dimension and a lot more interest in a haircut just by playing around with it. So again, I'm going to do that same similar thing on the next area. Going to do a swing section this time because I want a little bit more colour coming here. It's not just about sitting on front. I want to see a little bit more coming through the side here. So I'm going to do a slight swing section on like a half moon shape because I want to see a little bit more strength in it. But because we've gone stronger on this side of the head, what I've done is a half moon shape on the inside because we're going to have more strength because there's going to be more hair coming here. But I want it softer going towards the edges. So when it actually moves and swings, it actually has a little bit more softer flow because it's traveling around the curve of the head then.
Awesome. So essentially you're kind of dipping down past that bone of the top section there.
Absolutely. Alrighty, let's go in and have a bit of fun with this one. So this time I'm starting off with the yellow. And this is where we want to kind of grunge it up because I don't like it sitting too pretty. We're going to smash out a bit of green sitting through there. And I don't think Louise does either. And then I'm just going to smash out a bit of the pink over the top of it. But blur it in between a couple of those lines. And this is where you can bring it up a little bit further. So it's all about it looks a little bit scary when you're doing that much like that. But when it actually sits and disperses, it sits really quite soft.
Almost looks like my 3-year-old did that, Josh.
Your 3-year-old is a talented artist. Give them a job. Send them my way. Alrighty. So I know I've only done 3 on that side and 2 that one side. But my thing here now when I look at it, so I'll just get you to tip your head forward, Louise, is I know when that hair travels there, that's going to be coming down sitting here. If I do that same on that side, it's going to look just like a big V coming down and it's going to look like too much colour. I like the idea of seeing softness when it travels because when this moves, you want it to actually flow and blend. Because my biggest thing with creative colour is you've got to be clever with your placement. It's not just about chucking a bit of blue on someone's hair, a bit of pink. It's actually going to be quite clever and it's going to mould and shape to and complement the haircut. So it's all about colouring the cut in a sense. So I know now that hair is going to be traveling down here. I know there I need a little bit more empty space. So when that folds over the top, it's actually going to create that bigger contrast. So I know then I need to take my shape up here, just that little bit higher. So it's got a bit more of an emptiness just there. It's all about creating enough negative space in the hair so you can really contrast out and see it differently. So I know I want just that to travel there and flick just near the ear because that's where that haircut kind of diffuses out.
Everybody's loving your attention to detail, Josh.
Oh great.
So is the model.
And Louise, she's probably, like both me and her are my biggest critics in a sense because I definitely know she does not like it. She won't say it directly, but she will, yeah. You can tell in body language, right, with someone?
I know what you're talking about.
All right. So I want to, same again with that last panel. If I wanted to layer colours, so my biggest thing when you're layering colours, always lay your lighter shade first and then your darker over the top. So then you can actually get more bolder contrast and blend coming through. This one, I just wanted to get a little bit more sporadic with it. I didn't want to be as perfect. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, cool, I want to edge this up. Because I know the haircut, I want to see a bit more strength coming here. So you've got to think where the hair is actually traveling with the color. So I know I want to see a little bit more there. So it's not just about slapping on a bit of color, you've got to see, look and see where it's traveling and where it's following up to afterwards. Alrighty. How's that looking so far? Cool. We just wanted to keep this really quick and simple and easy, nothing too forced. Would we be able to check on Renee and see how she's going as well? Cool. So now I'm looking at it through here. I'm like, cool. Alrighty. There's a. That's right. I want to actually amplify out this length through here that little bit more. So I'm going to actually create. See how it's actually curving and hugging into the head shape? We want to work with that. If we were to stick to true stronger line, it wouldn't actually flow with the line of the haircut. So what we're going to do is a nice curved angle going around. That's going to follow the natural line of the head shape.
Nice little scoop.
Yeah, nice little scoop out. And I still want to see some emptiness on that line there. So when we look at this section, we want to pull aside all that softer hair. And then we kind of know, all right, cool, we've got this hair to play with then. And that's going to create our strength and depth because we want to see that softness there. So we've got a couple ways about this. We can do it in multiple sections. I'm just going to do it in one giant panel just to keep it nice and easy.
Awesome, we love that. We have another question for you, Josh.
Yep.
Where do you get your inspiration from, and do you follow any specific artists?
Oh, generally I get inspiration from everywhere. One of my biggest inspirations this year has actually been one of my favorite Joico artists and mentors through my Fame Team experience, and that's Caroline Gahan.
She's pretty amazing.
Yeah, she's unreal. And if you guys have ever seen her wig work, one of my biggest inspirations I got when I saw her live where she was talking about color placement and how she did everything. It was phenomenal. So I highly recommend going back through the Sabre Education page. It's really, really worthwhile watching. So here I kind of just want to mix it up that little bit more because I just want that little bit of a tip. Oh, who am I kidding? We're not just going to do the tip. We're going to bring it through a little bit more. I won't lie. I'm not going to lie on that one. So what that's going to do, this pink, because obviously it's that bit more of a reddy base, we're putting it over the yellow. That's actually going to create us a bit of nice copper coming through as well. So then it's not just the 3 tones you're sticking with, you're actually having a bit more fun with it. So I've left that really heavy with the end on the pink, and then I've slightly blurred it. So you're actually going to get a bit more of diffused line coming through on it, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Awesome. So this is Louise for the moment. I'm probably going to go through and have a look a bit more afterwards, and we're going to have a bit more of a play. And I'm probably just going to recheck some of the sections, maybe a little bit more accenting around through the face there. But that's pretty much it for Louise's technique.
And we're going to post photos later, aren't we?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Of what
Even a few little sneaky reels as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Renee, let's have a look at your hair. So, everyone, this is the beautiful Renee. So, Renee actually has a scalp lightening normally, but her hair wasn't actually ready to actually get lightened properly yet. But she's that typical client where she needs to come in for a toning service. It would look like they need to have a bit more lightening done, but they're not ready for the lightening yet because you don't want to risk overlapping or overbanding. So what we're doing is working with the regrowth, amping it up and giving it a cool bit more of a fashion but salon-friendly look. So with Renee's look today, she's got a bit of a cool funky haircut as well by one of our guys in the salon. So what I've done is I've gone through the Lumi Shine cream range and I've done a darker root shadow out through here. I'll be posting the full formula up of this one later, but essentially it was 6SB, 8SB with a tiny bit of 3N, just to dot it out that bit darker. So Renee's actually a natural 4-5 level. So if you look really, really closely, you can actually see her natural depth coming through there, but I didn't want to completely cover it. I still wanted that softness there. But when it sits, you can't tell. The biggest thing for her, Renee, was she told me today when she came in, she's like, oh, I want a bit of pink, bit of orange, but I want to be able to change it up in a couple of weeks' time. So that's what was so perfect about this. All we did, root shadow, quick couple of panels through the front, took us 15 minutes application, and it's a quick refresh service for your clients. So with Renee 3 here, we kept this application super, super simple. Idea before, I've just gone through a soft panel through the front here. I've gone 1, I've gone 2, and I've gone 3. So you can see when it actually moves, because the way we've done it, how well it actually changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you look for in a haircut when you're thinking of colour placements? It's a question we've just received.
No, that's perfect. The biggest thing is how the client wears it.
Yep.
So one of the best things I ever got told when you actually have a client in your chair, they can look absolutely stunning and beautiful when they're sitting there. That's not going to look like it when it's at home. My biggest thing is the client looks and feels amazing every day. Even if it's one of those off days, it still looks really cool. It doesn't look like it needs to be overdone.
Yep.
So I always look at how the client wears their hair, and I get them to be extremely realistic with me about it as well, like how they wear their hair, how they part it, what they do, what they don't do with it, how lazy they are, how not lazy they are.
Try and keep it real, yeah?
Yeah, because there's no point in doing something that's not going to suit them and their lifestyle. Whereas I know Renee, she washes her hair nearly every morning, and she'll come into work, quickly blast it, and that's it for the day. She doesn't go too much into overstyling it, so we needed this to be versatile. She generally parts it over on the side 3 here, but sometimes it's not in a full parting, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But you can see through here, this is that question I had before about if I do the roots. So I've root tapped it, and then I've gone through and done my panel straight over the top. Even though then when she still wears it on the part, because of the haircut shape, it doesn't look like panels, it's still got diffusion coming through. One of my biggest things I always like to prep hair with at the moment, especially with my blondes, Defy Damage Protective Shield, especially in the humidity in Brisbane. It's just, it's a lifesaver. You wouldn't think it's a lifesaver. And always because everyone likes to keep it nice and glossy and expensive looking, I use the Luster Lock oil. So that's going to give it just that nice shine without making it too heavy as well. It just gives that nice sheerness to it.
So glossy.
Yeah, so glossy, and especially with blondes, everyone knows how hard it is to get a shiny blonde. This is a nice quick one that clients can do at home as well, but I like it just for those Instagram finishes when you're doing clients as well. If you go through and make it a bit more textured in some of the spots like I had then as well, you can get a bit more of that textured wet feel when you go through and put a little bit more in. That way it actually helps flash up that colour a bit more, especially if you're taking photos.
You could see it instantly when you put it on. It almost like doubled the intensity.
Oh, didn't it just?
Yeah.
So that's why some areas I've gone through and just smashed it through the top. This is another thing people think about with your product, is you can actually bring something out or make something less by putting more product in less than others. So slimming it out in some certain areas just gives it that bit more shine, but leaving some underneath a little bit more matte without the shine, it just makes it pop that little bit more.
Awesome.
Cool.
Great.
So I really enjoyed the live today. Did we have many more questions? Anyone?
It's just all the love.
Yay.
Just got all the love.
That makes me so happy.
Legends.
Cool.
Louise even got some love.
Oh, Louise is
Yeah.
So just to recap on the techniques today, what we've done, keep it simple, stupid. Don't overcomplicate something. So front, we've gone through, divided just around the middle. I've gone through and created curved lines where I wanted a little bit more softness, and then I've gone more moon-shaped with some areas, so it has more depth going through the middle and then slimming up through the edge. So it actually follows around the curve of the head beautifully as well. Then on the other side through here, just really make sure you pay attention to your empty spaces in the hair. because that's going to give you more pop and bang for your buck. As you can see, we've only done 6 foils through the front. And when you've saw Renee's hair before, how much impact that gives just from a couple of foils without having to do too much work. It's all about thinking smart and being time conscious, especially around this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
One more question.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to essentially maintain the vibrancy of colour intensity as a maintenance home care regime?
Oh, absolutely. So I always get this from people and they instantly think that they have to go to a shine colour lock.
Yep.
My biggest thing is making sure that you look after the core strength of the hair. So I highly recommend something like Defy Damage. I actually use it with mine as well. If you can't tell, it's a bit of true blue. But it's also going to create that perfect strength for the hair. So think of it this way, like with a brick wall. If you don't actually fill in the cracks of that brick wall and you go to paint over the top of it, you actually end up with it cracking and a bit fadey. So that's why you need to fill in the core strength of what the hair needs, so it actually lasts longer, it stays more vibrant. Once you've got the strength and the condition of it, it just lasts so much longer as well. And that's also a home care tip for what clients do with their hair. Are they using cooler water? Are they washing it every day? Are they sweating a lot? Is it quite humid? Are they using too hot of tools? Those are big questions that you have every tips with it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we're going to post lots and lots of stuff on the page, all the formulas, all the pictures, and we'll just do one more lap around over here. And thank you very much, Josh.
My pleasure. Thank
Awesome.
you all for joining me.
Yes.
Please, if you've got any more questions, don't be afraid to put them in the comment box down below. And I'll be on later on. I'll be posting them photos, the after photos on the page, and a couple of little reels. So watch out for them. We're going to have a bit of fun. And thank you all very much for joining. Big love.
Ciao. Bye, everyone.